We're on night 2 of our homeschooling summit. If you missed last night and you're on Facebook right now, hi. Want you to just, you can scroll up and look for it. You can also look under guides. I think Sydney usually puts all of our recordings in there, and they're categorized either by the Friday portion or their, ooh, that's weird, by the Friday portion, or they're categorized by the summits or different things. You'll see it in there. The other way that you can look at it, if you just want to get to it quick, or you think someone's not on Facebook and they might want to watch it, they can go to the Rooted Cafe, KAFE.com /store. If you, it's $20 and you can get all these recordings, all of the downloads, the PDFs, the PowerPoints, anything, all the tips, tricks, all the things, they're all in there downloaded. If you're a cafe member, you already have this, don't buy it. You already have it in your membership. Notice it's $20. So you might as well buy 1 month of the cafe and get it for free. And then you get all the other stuff in there. Must be cool. Let me pin myself here and let me pin you, Sunshine. Okay, so we are going in tonight. We have the privilege of Miss Kris Huttermann to be with us. And yes, Erica did tell me how to say your name. She gave me the Hooked on Phonics lesson and I wrote it out, Huttermann. So I am really excited. I know that you have already started. I know Cinnamon got a hold of you today as a worship leader, as helping to do, helping in this area, leading her particular son whose heart is for worship, and how you can actually gear your homeschooling around the passions of your children is so just amazing to me, and something that doesn't happen in other school systems. So I'm going to just hand the floor over to you, Kris, and let you share with everyone all the great things you have.
Well, I feel kind of like an underachiever because I didn't prepare any slideshows for tonight. The ladies last night set the standard. So I figured we would just talk, and if anybody has any questions. We started homeschooling in 2008, so it's been a long time for us. We have 10 children, 7 grandkids. So we have had 5 graduate from homeschool, and they've gone to move out, and they've gotten married and had kids of their own. We have 5 still at home, 1 that will be done this year. She has 2 classes left, and she'll be done with her high school credits. We have an 8th grader, a 4th grader, a 2nd grader, and a preschooler. So my kids range from 29 to 4. So we have a lot of kids. But what I kind of felt like maybe I had to bring to the table, besides just the fact we kind of have the music thing going in our family, is that I also have 2 boys that are on the autism spectrum. They're very, very high functioning. They would be what used to be considered Asperger's. 1 is grown, and then my other one is an 8th grader. And then I've had 3 of my children have been moderate to severely dyslexic. So we've had those challenges. And so I just thought maybe we could talk about, some things that you can do to help with your not neurotypical children, your non-neurotypical children. My 2 oldest daughters, who have since graduated and moved on with their lives, back when we were first homeschooling, there wasn't not too many sources out there to really help with dyslexic children. My oldest daughter, who's 26 now, well, she's my 3rd oldest, but the oldest with dyslexia, the school district never caught it. They just thought she was, lazy and didn't want to do the work, and she was a social butterfly. And so it kind of went under the radar until we brought him home. And then I caught that there was something going on. She could not read. Probably in 8th grade, she probably had about a 3rd or 4th grade reading level. And the public school had kind of just let that go through. And we had her tested at the public school, and they did place her as moderate to severely dyslexic. And so when my next daughter coming up started to show signs, we automatically knew what it was. So we found a lot of sources out there. Weren't the greatest back then. I mean, now you have a lot more options, but we didn't really have much of a community or any help. So we did a lot of reading out loud, a lot of audiobooks, a lot of video lessons. And because we have 10 kids, I think we've tried probably almost every curriculum there is to try until we found our kind of what worked for us. And now my fourth grader, as of last year, she definitely, her dyslexia had gotten to the point that she was third grade then, so her first grade sister was passing her, far surpassing her in her reading skills. And it became very clear that we needed to do something because she was very, very upset. We had lots and lots of tears. And so a very dear friend of mine that I knew from the assembly that I go to with Erica, she had 3 children who were severely dyslexic, and she sent me some really great information, which I did send Charlie a PDF that does have some sources on there. And so we right away, I gave her an online test and kind of to see where she was at. And she was moderate to severely dyslexic. And we started her then with what's called the Barton Reading and Spelling System, written by a woman named Susan Barton. So I don't know if anybody has heard of her. She does a method called the Orton-Gillingham method, which is a method that apparently the science behind it is that a dyslexic child during their pre-K years, there's 7 neurological bridges that connect, and a dyslexic child's brain only connects 5. So once we enter into like preschool and kindergarten, we start learning the letters and their sounds, they don't have that phonemic awareness that typical children do have, but they can be taught how to connect the final 2 bridges. And so this Orton-Gillingham method actually helps to connect those 2 neural bridges. And so we really got into the Barton reading system. It's a very pricey, it's about $300 to $350 a level, and there's 10 levels. And as a parent, you have to do about 6 weeks worth, or 6 hours, excuse me, not 6 weeks, 6 hours worth of training per level before you can even teach it. So it was a lot of investment in her. However, we did recognize that this year she's just grown in leaps and bounds in her confidence. And so it's been really, really good coming into the school year, because we're on day 12 of our school year, because we do year round. We take longer breaks during the feasts and, you know, take some time off here and there, but that way the kids don't forget what they've learned. You know, and I mentioned before, I do have 2 boys that one is 28, and he's now actually a computer networker. He works for himself and he makes insane amount of money all by himself. And he was a homeschool graduate. So it's proof that they can do it. He, as an adult, had himself tested because he felt like there was something going on, and he did test in what would have been probably 10 years ago categorized as Asperger's, but now they just call it autism spectrum. And my 8th grader is the same. So we've kind of realized that with them, they do better with technological sources and more computer stuff or hands-on electronic things, versus they do okay with textbooks, but they're more technologically minded. Let's see, what else? I did finally get to watch last night I was doing a Bible study with some young adult girls, so I missed it. But I was able to watch it earlier, and I did because Cinnamon had messaged me, and I was like, where did this lady get my information? But then I was, and then when I watched the video, then I recognized, I said, okay. And we do have my 17-year-old, she'll be done with high school this year. She is one of the worship leaders with my husband at the assembly that we go to. And she has 2 classes left to finish and she'll be done. But we were able to recognize her abilities. So I was telling Cinnamon, one of the things that we did was, so in Illinois, you have to have a speech credit as an elective. And so we would have her, she would write a song and she would sing it as a special at the assembly. And that was her speech. And I would, give her a grade for that. So it was fun to find ways to kind of put their interests. My oldest son, he was very, like I said, technological. So as a child, he would take things apart and put them back together. He learned to build viruses so he could take them apart, which was terrifying, you know. But there's so many things that you can do. I do want to say that one of the things that I think that as a parent and as a homeschool like teacher and principal is that we have to kind of recognize that it's okay to not have a structure per se. When we first started, I tried to put all the kids on a strict schedule and get them up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they had to have school started by such and such time. And we failed miserably at that. Like, we just did not do well. I've since just kind of let them get up on their own, and we get started when everybody is up and going. And then I have their full attention, and I'm not, you know, I don't get frustrated because they're not frustrated. And I think we just have to remember that because we're homeschooling, we have an entire day that we can devote to their education. It doesn't have to be the first 4 hours or 8 hours. You know, it could be sporadic throughout the day. It can be different times. And it's okay to recognize that, you know, every family is different, and what works for me may not work for you, but it's really important to recognize that you just have to pay attention to what your kids need and hear them. And the longer that you're working with them, you kind of start to learn their method of learning, and you can kind of accommodate, you know, like Cinnamon had shared that her son is really into worship and stuff. And I had actually done a little research, and there isn't a lot of curriculum out there for songwriters, but there's a place called, it's a curriculum called Brave Writer. And they actually just came out with a program for songwriters, and you can use it as a creative writing or a elective credit for high school. So that was really interesting because I didn't know that. We just found that out today because I was looking for Cinnamon online. I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything.
There's one question. Mary Barth asked, at what age would you be the best time to do testing?
Truthfully, my kids were not real obvious until probably second grade. About the time that they really start to have developed the reading skill where they would start to suddenly just take off and either get really strong around second grade is when I noticed with all of my kids that they were really struggling. There are signs and symptoms a lot of times, like B and D confusion. Q and P confusion is pretty typical until about the age of 7 or 8. So if your child at 7 or 8 is still having a lot of B and D confusion or P and Q confusion, as well as writing them backwards still sometimes. Sometimes with math, they might confuse 3s and in E, they can confuse 2s and 5s. So usually by the age of 7 or 8, they usually typically grow out of that. That's normal development for children, but dyslexics don't grow out of that. Even once they're taught how to recognize it correctly, and there's little tricks that these programs teach them, it's usually after about the age of 8, you start to really pick up on it. So I would say second grade would be a really good time to test somebody.
And then how do you go about testing? Is it different for each state, or is there something online, or?
They do have tests online available now where you can go and download a form and have your child take it. Sometimes you can ask the child questions if they can't read it all yet. You can also have them evaluated through the school district if they're still in the school district. Sometimes there are, sometimes your doctor might have somebody who does those types of testings. Because my first child was diagnosed through the school system and we recognized it, then I just gave them online testing and to be able to pick up on it.
That's good. That's good. Kimberly, do you want to hop on, unmute, and share what happened? You said the same thing was happening in your home with your youngest. Would you mind sharing what you went through?
Sure. My middle, my son, he's in the middle. He's 11, and he has sensory processing issues and Tourette's,
Mhm.
and he struggled up until age 9 with even counting, like remembering any of the numbers past 5. He just couldn't remember them at all. And that kind of one day he just, I don't know, he just figured out the counting. One day he came up to me, was like, I'm going to count to 100, Mom. I was like, okay. I was holding on for the ride there, and he did it. And after that, he was just like counting all the time. But with the reading, he's still at 11. He just struggles to recognize even the simplest words. He's not seeing that words are made up of sound combinations, and that you need to remember those sound combinations to decipher the words. He just can't seem to remember the sound combinations. So he'll look at it, I'll tell him what it is, we'll talk about it, we'll say it, but even 5 minutes later, 3 pages later, or even the next page, he's not recognizing the words. He's not recognizing the thing that we just talked about. So, and I've tried alphaphonics. I've tried the Bob books. I've tried just index cards and sight words. So our next, I actually did some research, and our next try is all about reading, which I think is based on the Orton Gillingham.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to start as soon as that arrives. We'll hopefully we'll get somewhere. So yeah. So my youngest, she's 8, and she's about to go into chapter books on her own, Yeah. So we have a little bit of that, and it didn't bother him until this past, I would say maybe 6 months. He's starting to notice.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of frustration as well now. Yeah.
I totally understand that, because that's what we went through. And actually what you're describing is exactly what we experienced. And that's when I was talking about those neurological pathways. It sounds like he is not maintaining and remembering those things because those last 2 pathways probably haven't connected yet. So All About Reading is actually an excellent source. I was just going to ask you if you had heard of it. We started to use the curriculum with her this year because the Barton Reading and Spelling you can use as a curriculum, but it's more of a tutoring because people are certified as Barton tutors and they're extremely expensive to hire. So that's why it's written with the Orton Gillingham, and All About Reading is written with the Orton Gillingham. And I will tell you, like, we tried everything, and so far it has been the only source that has connected those things for her, that she can remember the phonic sounds. She is just growing in leaps and bounds. And I give all the credit to Barton and to All About Reading, because we tried everything. We tried the Bob books. We tried flashcards. We tried everything. And when I understood that neurologically she wasn't connecting those 2 pathways, no matter what we were doing, and the method that Orton Gillingham uses, it actually teaches them to connect those pathways. And that was the missing link. So I really hope that you have really good success with All About Reading. That's fantastic that you're getting it, because I think that is the best curriculum in the universe for dyslexics.
Anything else, Kimberly?
No, but I really appreciate that. That's encouraging, because it takes a chunk of money, so it's like one more thing, one more curriculum.
Oh, I know.
So, and I have a 17-year-old as well, and I bought lots and lots of curriculum over the years. So I do appreciate that. Hopefully we'll see some success with it. So thank you.
Yeah. And don't even worry about time. Like, take your time and don't move on to the next lesson until, he's feeling confident. That was the one thing that I had to kind of really, for myself, slow down, and for her, was not to push them. In fact, when we started the Barton system, they said that a dyslexic's brain cannot pass 20 to 30 minutes. They're done. They're over it. They can't go further than that. And so we do a full half hour. She's tired, we stop. And you know, if in the beginning he does 15 minutes and he's worn out, just let 15 minutes be good. That's for him, like that might be what his brain needs right now. And don't feel bad about it. And don't let him feel bad about it. I used to take her away from everybody else, and we would go in my room if I had to, or we'd go in the basement, you know, where I'm at right now, where we kind of have our schoolroom set up. And I would completely isolate her from everybody, so she wasn't embarrassed, or she didn't feel pressure, or she didn't hear the other kids reading, which would make her feel more self-conscious and frustrated. So just really give him time, let him do it at his own pace, and he'll build confidence.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
We're getting, there's a few ladies, I know Ruth is saying over here, she's said that she has heard that the All About Reading is a really good program as well. Now, you mentioned, is this the one that you mentioned that was $300 or something for each session, or is that the
No, that's the
Barton Reading? The
Yeah,
Barton,
the
okay.
Barton Reading, yeah. Susan Barton, actually, her nephew was dyslexic, and he was, I think he was 17 when they diagnosed him.
Wow.
And he was reading at a 3rd grade level. And so she went through all this extensive training through Orton Gillingham methods through their schools and got certified. And she realized that the Orton Gillingham method, you know, it was scientifically proven to work, but it was ridiculously expensive. So she worked with their company to kind of reformulate it and package it in a way that was easier to teach, and it was more economic for families, but it's still $300 a level. Where All About Reading is about $150, and there's 4 levels for All About Reading, and they have an All About Spelling too that has 7 levels. There's another program called Blast Off to Reading that's even less expensive, and it uses the same method. And that's on the PDF. There's a link for that one as well. But that one's a lot less expensive, but it's all made with the same method, that Orton Gillingham method.
Do you recommend for the All About Reading for other children as well, or just children who might be have dyslexic?
No, everybody can use it. So it is an investment, but if you have younger children, the way the program is it's not a consumable. So a lot of curriculum, you know, you'll get it, and like the workbook, you have to keep replacing the workbook. If you have curriculum that has text and a workbook, the workbook always has to be replaced. But with All About Reading, the way it's set up is that everything is audible. There's not even any writing involved in it. It's all an audible lesson. So if you purchase it once, you never have to purchase it again for any of your other students. And you can use it across the board for anybody. But dyslexics really do excel at it.
Great. Great. So with your other children, what would you say when you first started? What would you say you wish you had known when you first started that you know now?
Well, like I touched on earlier, to not worry about schedules. And and I'm very organized. I'm a very organized person. And I could live in a planner if people would let me. I'd have probably 5 different planners, right? And so I would try to plan our homeschool day, and then I would fail miserably because I wouldn't accomplish half of what I set out to do. And then I would be frustrated. So what I do now is what a lot of moms call reverse planning, where I write down what we did for the day. That's how I plan. I write it all out after we do it on my day on my planner. And that way it keeps track of what we've accomplished, but there's no stress on me or on the kids. So that was a big thing, was learning to be organized kind of in a different manner, and as well as kind of giving myself some grace and the kids grace to let them just be kids, and to recognize that it was more important that if all we got done that day was me sitting on the couch with them and maybe reading either our word or a read aloud together or something, if we were having a day that everybody was just raw and emotional, that was okay. it's okay to not push curriculum and just have life experience and just to love on them and let them know that, you know, like them being home for school isn't just about them getting an education, but it's just about being together and growing as a family and just enjoying each other on top of the ability to learn. And I think when you just take all the pressure off yourself, because I got a kick out of last night when she said, like, if you're going into homeschooling to think that you're gonna, you know, get it all figured out or you're gonna do something fantastic, you might as well just give up, because, you know, that's summarizing it. But it's true. Like, I think that homeschool is a blessing, but it's also something that kind of is a monster of its own sometimes. Like, you just have to kind of let it flow naturally.
We have
Otherwise,
you have ladies over in Facebook going, yes, yes, yes. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. Thank you. And what Ruth Camargo says, oh, today was a really hard day. Daniel Taylor says, my daughter has dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and
Wow.
ADHD. School days are much more fun now that I have the tools to help her learn the way Abba made her. Danielle, would you share with us in the comments what the tools that you're finding are successful? I just love helping her learn the way that Abba made her.
Yes. Yeah. I know that for students that have dyscalculia, so dyscalculia would be dyslexia when it comes to math. So not every dyslexic has all three, which would be dyslexia is primary reading, dyscalculia would be math, and dysgraphia is with handwriting. So I know that the curriculum math you see, which my dyslexic children excelled at. I hated it. I thought it was the most boring math curriculum in the universe, but they did well at it because it's written for, you know, kids that have dyscalculia. And so they did great with it. But 100%, like when you figure out like what you can do to help your kid go from crying their eyes out to like being so proud and so excited, like it's just the best feeling.
I think one of my favorite sayings, it's okay to not be okay. Like, it is okay. You know what? We're having a hard day. So let's just do something different. And what you get to do, homeschooling is one of the blessings. Instead of trying to push through and make it look like traditional schooling, this is where this excels, where you can just be, we're doing something different today. Let's go outside.
100%. The other day they were crazy. So I put them outside in the splash pad. I was like, go outside and I want you to go add up all the cars that drive by and come back in and tell me in 10 minutes how many cars have passed. So they were outside doing addition and subtraction in the splash pad with the dogs because they were crazy. They were making me crazy and I was stressing out and I was stressing them out. So I just said, put the books away, go outside. And you get to do that when you homeschool. You get to have.
Okay, what's another one? I want to know another one. So there's one. Go count the cars. I mean, I have my granddaughters and I'll make them get on the jumpy thing and count. They have to count jumping and they have to count while they're jumping, you know, and so however high they can count, they have to count that high and jump. So they're getting rid of the energy, that extra energy.
I had a good friend who was actually a teacher in public school and she unschooled all of her children and they're all like just absolute geniuses. It's so funny. But she said that they used to go and they would get the house numbers off the houses and they would do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division with the house numbers. She'd say, okay, this number is 713 and this house number is, you know, 821. How many is that? You know, and they would do addition that way, just going on walks together. And she would find different things out there that she could say, okay, add this together, add that together. And they would play the house number game is what she called it.
That is really good. That's a good one. I heard you use the word unschooling, which there's a few ladies that are new and then some that have never used the concept because I think for those of us who may or may not have control issues.
Control issues right here. I do.
Sister, you said that. I mean, hello, this is I literally, if you took this away from me, I would be in a little ball in the corner sucking my thumb because I live by this planner. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's my favorite thing.
Mine's right here. See how thick it is.
Oh geez, I could so live inside my planner. So I have that and a Trello board going where we have like processes and workflows going for the Rooted Cafe and all the things in here. But I'm telling you, for those who are learning this new word, unschooling, can you share how that might look in your family?
So unschooling for me is very difficult because, like I said before, I'm a very organized type of person. I know tons of people that they do fantastic with unschooling, but I would say unschooling as a whole is not necessarily that you don't use curriculum at all, because a lot of unschoolers do use curriculum maybe as a spine, but it's kind of like they're jumping off point. So unschooling is just like a really loose term, basically, of saying like you're just not confined to one curriculum or a one way of doing things. You like I said, that you might go outside for the day and go for a walk, and your math for the day might be counting house numbers or making a recipe with your children where they have to do fractions because they're adding with the measuring of things. If you tell them, well, we're going to make 3 batches of cookies today, so then they have to add up how many 3 times a half is, and that's a lot of times they do that. A lot of nature studying happens in unschooling, which is a great way to learn science. And unschooling is a lot of like student led by interest. And I think that unschooling is probably amazing, but I would feel like, because I have to have a curriculum spine to jump off of. We like to do unit studies a lot, especially for the younger ones with science and history. But a lot of families are really successful with unschooling. It's just what works for them. And it's just kind of the freedom of being able to be together and look at what you're interested in and find different ways to learn things without being kind of tied to a specific curriculum.
We have Amanda Cox she says that we're eclectic homeschoolers with a heavy dose of unschooling. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
And then Tiffany, I'm bouncing between 2 things here. So that's why I look like I don't know what I look like, but Tiffany says that using the Thinking Tree journals on Amazon. Oh, good. Amanda's going to come on and share a minute. Thinking Tree journals on Amazon are great for dyslexia because they raise the letters via 3D, so they're easier for them to read. And then they have full curriculum for cheap. Who doesn't love cheap?
Yeah, I looked at the Thinking Tree before, and they looked like they were fun.
That looks good.
Fun for them.
Amanda, I'm asking you, unmute yourself and share with us kind of like what that looks for you, the unschooling. How does that work for you? What you guys do?
Hey guys. So I say we're eclectic homeschoolers with a heavy dose of unschooling, because I do have control issues, but I've had to let them go because our life is crazy. And if I'm going to get school done, I have to do school when we can. And how we can. So what that has looked like for my younger 2 is my younger 2 learned to read through very little effort on my part. They learned how to read from YouTube videos and apps, and the no screen time people their mind would explode if they knew they could learn to read.
Hey.
And I doubted myself for a really long time because my third was like 6 and he wasn't that great at reading. He was really, really struggling, and I was feeling like, the mom guilt. Mm-hmm. And then it clicked, and now he read our science to us today, and he's 7. He read the Apologia book to me. So we do use curriculum, but we don't always use curriculum. We use it where it fits. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Makes sense for people on here. It's great for your visual learners that it taught their youngest how to read. And then Tiffany is asking also, that was Tiffany that said reading eggs. And then which app, which is an app, the reading egg is an app. A lot of people saying that they've used the thinking tree journals and that they love them. I'm gonna scooch over. Danielle Taylor on Facebook said, we use All About Reading and All About Spelling for phonics. Right now she's doing copy work from her stories and All About Reading for her writing, and we go over grammar concepts in those sentences. We use Matthew C, but due to her memory issues, I had to use the principles taught in the Matthew C and make up our own worksheet so that she gets plenty of practice in before moving on to the next concept. We use classical conversations as our spine for history and science, and we read a lot of picture books, YouTube videos, and unit studies based on the memory work. We also have plenty of skip counting songs we use to help with math multiplications. I love planning and killed myself trying to get her to learn the way that I taught. Now I record what we do, and what a relief it is to only have a goal to reach.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
We use Reading Eggs sometimes too, for sure. There's a few apps, like I'm not one of those moms that's like no screen time, because sometimes that is like my piece for the day. Like sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's really good. They earn it and they'll get to go play. They have to play one learning game before they can go play something else. So, I mean, I love that her kids learn to read off of screen. I think that's great. I think if
That's
it
good.
works for them, it works. Yeah, that's great.
I like you're saying that, like nature, just using walks. We did walk the other day with my granddaughter who's just starting kindergarten. She just started kindergarten, then the preschooler, she's 3, Maya. And my husband was taking them on a little nature walk, and they picked up a rock and threw it and hit the tree. And so he said, well, let's stop and talk about trees. Did you know that they can talk to each other? Do you know that they have little vibrations that go through their roots? And he got to teach them all about, and she came back and told me all about it. And I mean, that's a concept she wouldn't have probably read till later, but now, at 5, she's already learned about, being nice to the trees because they talk to each other and how they make our oxygen. And he got to have those conversations. So that was my first experience in unschooling, which I'm kind of excited about this unschooling concept. What else do we have? Nessie also is a great resource for dyslexic children. Lots of fun games that don't make them feel like they're learning. A couple of people saying that they're doing classical conversations and they love it. Okay. Stacy says she's asking Danielle Taylor, oh, help, please. My adopted son has ADHD, PTSD, and ODD. I'm trying to find ways to homeschool him with the ADHD, ways to keep him engaged. Kris, can you speak to that? Did you have any issues with ADHD at all in your children?
We do have a couple that do have, they would probably kill me if they knew that I said that, but their dad has
symptoms.
Yeah, their dad definitely has ADHD, but Erica, don't tell anybody. But sometimes I find if it's something that they're passionate about, their attention span tends to last a lot longer. So if you find a subject that your child is really passionate about, then it's a really good way to kind of sneak other concepts into that. So say like right now we've been doing a unit study on botany for science. So we have a garden at our assembly. So I would take them on Sunday mornings, and they would go and work in the garden with me, and we would talk about parts of a plant and stuff like that. So I do notice that with a couple of my kids that have some attention issues, where they're very excited about being in the garden. Hence, I knew that they would pay attention to what I had to say, and I could hold their attention a lot longer. So if there's something that they're very passionate about, something that they're excited about, like just having conversations with them, you can kind of start to pick up on the things that they're really excited about. And then you can kind of get creative. If they're into some type of, I don't know, like my oldest son was really into taking things apart, right? So we would find ways to throw math into him reassembling something, or we would label pieces of a sentence on parts of he took apart a radio, and we would label noun, adjective, adverb. And so he would diagraph a sentence by putting the radio back together. Like there's things that you can do, try to find what they're passionate about and then sneak in the stuff there, because whatever they're passionate about, they're going to spend a lot more time paying attention to. I don't know if that helps at all, but
I think that's a really great tip. And Stacey came back and said dinosaurs. He loves dinosaurs, and then thinking, faces. But I mean, I think dinosaurs is an easy. I mean, I don't know how old you said he was, but I mean, if he loves dinosaurs, gosh, so many fun things you can do with dinosaurs.
Well, you could do a unit study on science and teach them about bones, about muscles, about circulatory, everything by using a dinosaur's body. Like you can, like I said, depending on how old he is, you can teach him about even parts of speech by labeling the bones, and they connect together the correct way by labeling those pieces. There's tons of things that you can do. You just have to be creative. And don't be afraid to look at things like Pinterest. Pinterest has great ideas.
Yeah. She says he's 5. Oh, that's fun.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He could learn tons of stuff off of just a dinosaur.
He's little. Yeah. You can let him. Yeah. That's a fun. And I'm really feeling the freedom here, like, especially at that age, is let him. I know Gail Heaton, when I ask her, like, what should we do with Eliza? She's 5, what she's going to kindergarten. What curriculum? And she's like, I don't recommend any structured curriculum for a kindergartner. She was like, I don't recommend. They need to like play, and they need to be very hands-on, and you just play, do like play learning. So
yeah, a good thing to do at 5 is to make busy boxes. So if you get like the dish pans from the dollar store, you can fill it up with rocks, sand, dinosaurs. You can put numbers in there. You can put letters in there. And he could have a flashcard that has an A, and he has to find the A, and we talk about the sound it makes. Busy boxes are great source for preschoolers, and even into like my 2nd and 4th graders still play with my preschoolers' busy boxes. They think that they're fun. We put magnets on some of the toys, and then we have a big magnet, and he gets the toys out with the magnet. We learn about magnets. We talk about how magnets work. There's tons of ways that you can learn. Especially at 5, just get him busy, keep his hands and his mind busy. Busy boxes are fantastic for kids with ADHD.
that's really good. I like that one. I wrote that down too. I'm taking lots of notes. I'm glad I had a note.
And Pinterest has tons of ideas for busy boxes.
Great. Good. Note to self: Pinterest and busy boxes.
Yeah, they have tons of ideas.
Love it.
And for kids that have sensory issues, there's tons of sensory boxes or sensory things that you can make. Again, Pinterest has tons of ideas. You can put hair gel in a Ziploc baggie with some food coloring and little pieces, beads and stuff, and they can move them around. It helps kind of desensitize them to sensations that make them uncomfortable, which ultimately does help them in school because, they're using different types of muscles and fine motor skills and gross motor skills, which eventually does translate over into their education. So even sensory bins or sensory boxes are really good.
That's good. Wow, this is really good. Any other questions? Oh my gosh, so I'm reading over here in our chat. We have teacherspayteachers.com that came up last night, Sophie, for ideas, and it's free. So Teachers Pay Teachers. So you can go on there. Erica mentioned that came up last night. It did. Thanks for referencing again. A lot of people are really enjoying that one. Danielle said, making 3D letters out of a modeling clay was great for young kids who are dyslexic. It adds depth perception to learning the letter and sound, and research shows it helps embed the letter in their brain.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Stacey, I hope that helped. Please get back to us and let us know like the things you tried and what you're learning, and post pictures of your 5-year-old. You guys, I hope you are good. I'm actually going to start a Facebook group in the next day or two just for our portion homeschoolers. So you guys can go over there and you won't have to search so hard to find each other's posts, and you can connect with each other and ask questions, because I feel like probably a very large percentage of you are homeschoolers, and I would love for you to be able to connect and help each other. And then we will work on having an official conference next summer, probably the last Sunday of June next year, where we'll have like speakers and curriculum representatives come in and talk about why their stuff works and doesn't work. So if you have special things you want to know, please let me know so I can, or people who would be amazing speakers that you feel like you could learn from, please let me know. And then you'll also be able to share. Okay. So whatever we can do to help. I just want you all to, we want to fill the need. So thank you, Kris. Any final thoughts from everyone?
I do want to give you, any of you guys that have dyslexic kids, I want to give you a quick BD and PQ way to tell apart. It's a trick. So if you take your left hand and hold it towards your face like this, and it's like you were holding a set of balloons. So B for balloon. When a child looking at a sentence, this is a B, right? If it's not this position, it's a D. So they can look at a B or a D, they look at their hand, buck, balloon, this shape. If it doesn't look like this, it's a D. If you turn it upside down, it's puff, pig. If it doesn't look like this, it's a Q. And it works. It sounds silly, but it works.
As I'm doing it, I'm writing this out. Do y'all have that? Say it one more time real quick for us. So those who are writing.
Left hand, it's left hand only, fingers facing towards you. That's a B, buck, balloon. If it's the other direction, it's a D. When you turn your hand upside down, that's P for puff, pig. If it's not this position, it's a Q. And it really works. They catch on really quick. My fourth grader's BD, she barely ever makes the mistake anymore. She immediately goes like this when she sees the word, and she knows immediately if it's a B or a D. It's worked.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much, Kris. Thank you so much, Kris. I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing freedom. And I feel like you've set a lot of women free that were feeling like they were failing because they couldn't get that right. So thank you for that. Erica says parents as teachers.org was helpful for pre-K kid. And I just looked to see if they had helps on their site. Looks like there are activities there as well. So great. Thank you, Kris. I so appreciate you. And we are going to have Kris back to for sure be sharing some more for you guys. Let's see if I can stop the recording.